overview about the investment landscape. So investment landscape from a VC perspective, what are the future perspectives, etc., and why Saudi if you're raising funds. And then Raat is joining from Techstars Riyadh, and he will be sharing with us an overview about the incubation, acceleration programs in Saudi, but also, as you could expect, probably a zoom about what Techstars is doing in Saudi Arabia. And then we'll have Arwa joining us from the garage. It's the iconic place in the Saudi ecosystem. So go and check the garage if you don't know about it yet. It's an amazing place with a lot of content and programs, and Arwa will be telling us more. And last but not least, the superstars of the session and of the ecosystem, if I might say, the startups. I don't know if I'm allowed to say startups for Foodix, for example, which is a unicorn. So we'll have Jamel and Ashraf joining us for a panel conversation to close this session today. And they will be giving us the startup perspective about the startup ecosystem in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, so we are ready now for our first session, our first presentation, so that we will be alternating presentations and conversations with our panelists. Feel free to drop questions in the chat at any time. We will be picking up the questions and sharing them with our panelists. So our first speaker is George from Astrolabs. He is specialist in supporting startups soft land in Saudi Arabia. And he will be giving us an overview of the ecosystem. So we would need to give you the possibility to share your screen. Please, George, step in, unmute yourself, and share your screen. Are you able to unmute yourself? Yeah.
Yes, should work now. Is it working?
Yeah, it's working. We can see your screen, and now we can see the presentation.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Can you see the presentation? Great.
Yes.
Okay, let me just open the slideshow. Sorry, guys, I'm not the smartest when it comes to Zoom. I'm more of a Google Meets type of person, but it's all good. Thank you, Amel, for the introduction. And again, it's a pleasure to be among all the other speakers today on the panel. Again, introducing myself very briefly, my name is George. I support companies at Astrolabs through helping be the bridge, I would say, to help those entities understand and navigate through the landscape of setting up an entity in KSA. So to dive straight into it, what does that look like in terms of us as Astrolabs, what we've been doing, how we've been contributing to the Saudi Arabian ecosystem? Today, Astrolabs is the first licensed incubator in KSA. We've been in the market since they've announced that foreign entities can come in and set up their presence 100% foreign owned. Fast forward till today, we've helped over 700 companies set up in Saudi Arabia. A lot are high growth startups all the way to companies listed on the stock exchange. We've been active in more than 37 sectors, and we've been helping companies coming from over 50 countries around the world. So with that being said, today, Astrolabs is not just a setup entity, but we help you continuously scale and run your business smoothly in Saudi Arabia, meaning licensing all the way to bank account opening. Then sometimes, it could be tricky to hire Saudi nationals remotely. We have a recruitment arm. We provide a soft landing space as an office for you to operate from and have your teams work out of there, and all the way to post-setup compliance when it comes to running the business. Now, Saudi Arabia is, I would say, a big black box still today. People still find it difficult to understand how to set up their presence in Saudi. Some have the perception of this is a landscape which is similar to the UAE or similar to other countries. How can we set up our license? How can we get a certificate of incorporation? It is not the same. However, it's worth the hassle, I would say. As Amel was explaining, Saudi Arabia currently right now ranked first when it comes to where most investments are coming in. Highest in foreign direct investment, highest in VC investment. So it's massively growing to hit the vision of 2030. So today, when we talk about going in as a business, there's a lot of things you need to study before stepping in, other than just going through the setup. You need to make sure who you're going to nominate as your Saudi general manager, who you're going to hire for your team, either business development representatives or any people who are going to run the administrative work. Beforehand, it would be good to have a few clients in KSA working on projects, whether it's with the government, semi-government, or private sector, especially when as a startup, ideally it's raising that capital and then fueling your expansion into the kingdom. So with that being said, today, when we talk about going in as a startup, if you have your notebooks out, this is where you should start taking notes. So when it comes to going in as a startup, to qualify for something called the entrepreneurial license, you need to hit two categories in their prerequisites. First, your company needs to be younger than 5 years old. And the second point is that you need to raise funds from a venture capital. This is a prerequisite before stepping in. MISA, the Ministry of Investment of Saudi Arabia, is the main and first governing body you have to come across for your application. And they need to see that your startup is well funded and can sustain itself in KSA. So when coming to Saudi Arabia, just for you to know, setting up a company from scratch as foreigners is not currently an option. You need to expand into KSA. So let's say your startups are formed in Delaware. You would expand from Delaware into KSA. The Delaware entity will be the parent company of the Saudi subsidiary, 100% foreign owned. Now, when we're going for the startup route, there are a few documents that we need to prepare to submit to MISA as a pre-approval. So first thing first is you have a letter of intent. So why you want to come to Saudi, how you're going to contribute to the ecosystem, a startup brief. It's a 1-pager about the startup, your pitch deck, which also outlines your business plan. And lastly, your endorsement letter from the VC or a support letter from a licensed incubator. So it's a set of documents. If you have a, let's say, a fintech startup and you're looking to come in, it's as if we're stating a case / pitching to MISA your concept, what you do, and showing them the proof that you have been backed. The VC can be from anywhere around the world. It does not specifically need to be from Saudi. And we take those documents, submit them to MISA. MISA have to give us the approval for the entrepreneurial license. Now, if the approval comes through, only 2 documents will be needed from your end. So it's your certificate of incorporation or commercial registration, and lastly, your articles of association. These are the 2 key documents that you need to prepare and legalize. So if you're out of the UAE, I see here there are multiple people from UAE and Tunisia. You need to attest them at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Saudi Embassy, those 2 documents. If your startup is licensed in Delaware or somewhere in Europe, those documents need to be apostille seal. I'm sure you're familiar with the type of legalization of documents. So that's when it comes to the startup. Now, the benefits of having the entrepreneurial license is that your yearly renewals for your license, your MISA license specifically, is much more or less than going in as a well-established entity. That's the benefit they bring to you. Today, your MISA license renewal, in general, if you're a well-established entity, you pay around 62,000 Saudi riyals. But when you go in as an entrepreneurial license holder, you are paying only 2,000 Saudi riyals per year. Now that scales after 3 years. And then by the 5th year, they would tell you, hey, you have to pay 62,000 Saudi riyals. You've scaled your business here in KSA. You're no longer considered a small or high growth startup after the 5-year mark. So that's when it comes to going in as a startup. Now, today you might tell me, George, well, our business has been running for more than 5 years. We're an SME, we're not a startup, and we want to step in. So what's the other route? The other route is by the book. So it's the most general textbook way of going into KSA. You would go in again, also as an expansion into Saudi Arabia, also 100% foreign owned. Everything is the same. The entire process is the same, all the way to opening up the bank account. However, the prerequisites change. So instead of preparing this whole case for MISA for them to approve your entrepreneurial license, straight ahead, you'd prepare 3 documents. So again, it's a certificate of incorporation or commercial registration, the articles of association or memorandum of association. And the last document, which is completely different than the other set, is audited financial statements of the last fiscal year. Your audited financials need to be positive, and your audited financials need to be done by an external auditor, not an internal accounting individual. So also same thing that we need to legalize and attest. So everything that we submit to the ministry needs to be legalized. That's the main difference between the two. Of course, going in as a well-established entity, the fees of setting up are significantly higher than entrepreneurial license, because in the eyes of MISA, you are a well-established entity running your business very well. You don't need any VC funding. You haven't gotten any VC funding. Your whole focus is to step in and enter the market as a player. So these are the two main differences when it comes to licensing your tech startups or whichever vertical you come from. This is the main two ways that you can go in, either as a startup or as a well-established entity. So I hope this was a clear division between the both. Now, what does the process look like? I'm not going to dive into this entire process to give you a headache, but I'll explain it to you on a high level. So again, once your documents are done, they need to be couriered to KSA and the setup begins. Setting up the entity is divided into 3 stages. It takes 3 to 4 months to be fully incorporated in KSA. Now, if I were to explain this on a high level, stage 1 is all about licensing the entity. So here is where we get you your MISA license all the way to issuing the commercial registration. The commercial registration is equivalent to your certificate of incorporation. So that's your first milestone. You actually have presence on paper in Saudi Arabia now in the first month. Coming into second month, it's all about the compliance of the business. So we make sure that we register the entity at the Ministry of Labor, GOSI activation, and taxation authorities. So where we issue your Zatka certificate, your VAT certificate. So we got to make sure that the configurations of the business are all registered, right? And the national address, of course, most importantly, you need to have a national address because that's a prerequisite to opening a bank account. Now, in the first stage and in the second stage, we're making sure compliance and licensing. Part of the second stage, you need to know before starting the process, we need to nominate a general manager from your own business to run the KSA entity. Usually, in our experience, it's someone from the C-suite or someone who's a regional director in the Middle East. That person, the GM, will have a visa, will have a residency in KSA. That person has the authority to sign on behalf of the company. That person will be able to have access to the bank account. So usually they nominate someone who's part of the key stakeholders of the company to manage these kinds of things in KSA. So stage 1 licensing, stage 2 is compliance and getting the general manager visa prepped. Stage 3 is all about activating the entity. So when the GM arrives, we need to handhold this person throughout the process to get them the residency after the medical checkup, to take them to the Chamber of Commerce to make sure that they signed off that they opened the company, all the way to the bank account opening. We work with a few banking partners you might be familiar with here, such as SAB, which is HSBC, Riyadh Bank, Al Bilad Bank, SNB, ANB, so forth and so on. So these guys are the ones that are key players in the market when you want to open a bank account. So that's the process on a high level, as you see here on the roadmap. 2 points to be very aware when you're running a business in KSA. You have tax implications. There are 3 different types of taxes. Corporate income tax, which is 20% on your net profit. It starts from day 1. Withholding tax, depending on the type of activity. Withholding is for the money you send out. So it's 5 to 20%. So it depends really what you do, but most of the time it's 5% on the money you send out. And there is VAT, which is 15%. Last bit is Saudization. You know, part of the vision is that you need to hire local talent. So what does that mean for you? When you go in, the GM can be a foreigner. That's completely fine. Again, we said it's someone from your team. After that, logically, the first employee should be a Saudi national. That's so you're in the green zone at the Ministry of Labor in Itaqat. It's a platform where you need to make sure that you maintain the regulations and you make sure you maintain the quota of your Saudization. So let's say I open a company, I expand it, George is the GM. After George, it cannot be Amel. It needs to be a Saudi national. That person can be entry level, business development, customer success, you name it, admin. And then after that, depending on your activity of the business, then we'll know the ratio. So usually the common way is each Saudi national will unlock for you 3 expat slots. So the ratio is 1 to 3. 25% of your team need to be Saudi when you're running in KSA. So that's the breakdown of the structure, what you need to prepare as documents, the timelines, the process, and the main 2 components, which is your tax implications and your Saudization quota that you need to be aware of when running a business in KSA.
That's fantastic.
So Yeah, that's pretty much it from my end. If it's easier for you, you can, scan the QR code. Thank you very much. And on the top right, if you want to have a more in-depth consultation call, you'll find my calendar link, and then we could have a further discussion on this. Thank you, Amel.
Thank you, George. So we can see immediately that there is a certain complexity linked to setting up in Saudi. Complexity doesn't mean necessarily that it's difficult, but you just need to be aware of the different parameters and maybe get support from professionals. So for anyone who would like to connect with Astrolabs, either feel free to do that directly and contact George, or do that through us. So just send us an email, any form of communication, and we'll channel the communication to Astrolabs. So the start was super practical, but it will touch base more on all these aspects of soft landing and starting your business in Saudi in the third episode of our Saudi series. It's happening on December 4th, and Astrolabs will be partner of the third episode as well. Maybe a question from my side while checking if there are any questions from the audience. So
Sure.
You said, Josh, that to incorporate or to start your business in Saudi, it has to be a subsidiary of an existing company that is incorporated elsewhere. And we have seen in your latest webinar about strategies to go to the Middle East that many people go and incorporate in the UAE, for instance, before going to Saudi. Is it because it has to be a subsidiary of an existing company, or because of the complexity level? And when is it the right time for me to incorporate in Saudi?
Very, very good question, Amal. So regarding where you incorporate beforehand, it doesn't really matter. Usually when it comes to, as you were saying, the startup ecosystem, a lot of the startup founders open in Delaware, Cayman Islands, UAE, maybe the IFC specifically, if they're a fintech, or any other free zones that are relevant to their sector. That's not really the bottleneck. The situation here is you need to expand, and that's pretty much the only way of entry. When you're a foreigner, you need to expand an entity. The right time to make a move. To be frank with you, Saudi Arabia is best to enter, or I would say most right, when you do actually have traction there. So when you look at it from a different lens, when you're setting up in Saudi, there are a lot of implications of fees and commercials you need to consider when running a business. And to make it justifiable, you either usually receive funds from a VC, or you've already landed a project with one of the governmental entities, or you have existing clients in the country that need you to be there. Clients and partners that tell you, you know what, to continue our business together, we need you to have a commercial registration. So in short, no traction, just continuously do your business study until it makes sense and secure your business, go to the events, tap into the market. Once you solidify and materialize real business, that's when I would consider going into KSA.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Very clear. Another question from the audience is a foreign GM, general manager, could run the business remotely?
Good question also. So today, the GM visit consists of 5 to 7 working days to complete the setup of the business in the final stage. The GM can go back and, of course, can run the business remotely, but will need to come back on an annual basis to renew the residency and work permit. So there is a yearly compliance that you need to come back and renew your documents as a GM. But in general, yes, you can fly back and forth or work remotely.
Okay. Still time for one last question. How long does it take to settle in KSA, to set up your business? So you said 2 to 3 months, but is this for real, or?
I would say so 3 to 4 months to stay on the safe side. And that's, I mean, a very solid timeline. 10 to 12 weeks would be ideal from, getting your license done, making sure, everything is done. The usual timeline that takes long in this part of the process, what's a long timeline, is the general manager visa issuance. And of course, in case the government decides to change parts of the process or change the ways of the applications, we'll have to adapt and continue, which adds sometimes a partial timeline.
Very clear. Thank you so much, Josh. It was a pleasure to have you with us and to open this this conversation. I'll hand over directly to Aisha Al-Mutari, who is a senior manager at NTDP, the National Technology Development Program. Aisha, raise your hand if you're there.
I'm here. Thank you, Amel. Thank you for the invitation. Actually, I'm glad to be here and a pleasure to meeting you all. As Amel mentioned, actually, I'm Aisha Al-Mutari, Senior Manager at NTDP. So NTDP is the National Technology Development Program. We are a program under the umbrella of CIT. So actually, I'm here today to give you an overview regarding NTDP and the initiative support that we provided to tech startups and tech entrepreneurs. And I would like first to thank George about the amazing presentation, actually working with Setup as one of our partners. So in this presentation, I will mention definitely the product that we have or the initiative, including our partners there. So if you allow me, actually, as NTDP, we have 3 key objectives. So we are mandated to develop in the tech sector, driving sustainable growth, also positioning the kingdom as a global center for innovation and investment in the tech sector. Actually, we're working as a catalyst. So for the tech startups, tech ecosystem, through the networking of the partner. So in NTDP, actually, now we have been launched before, let's say, 2 years, and we know there is a lot of an amazing initiative already was there. So we don't want, to duplicate what already there. We leverage what is there, and we partnering. We have different partners. They provide an amazing support to these startups, to these entrepreneurs. So we partnering with them to increase the support and helping the startup to grow and more sustainable. So actually, I would after this slide taking you to the initiative that we have, which is we have 18 initiatives focusing on the startups, developing their business, focusing to help them to grow. And in every initiative, you're going to see we have different partners from PCs, fund, accelerators, incubators, commercial banks, also government entities, also from the startup. So actually, this is the project we have. So as you see, we mapping our project through the life cycle. Our idea here for the startup, for the entrepreneurs, you're going to find in every stage you are in, product support you to grow to moving to another stage. So I would like starting with MVP Lab. So in MVP Lab, actually, we support the startup from very early stage, post MVP or pre-MVP, to working on their MVP, have more major MVP, and they can go to the market. So in this initiative, we have different partners. We have Antler as one of our partners from the private sector. We have Garage, we have Code. And what we are providing is we incubate the startup for a period of time, like from 4 to 6 months, and to provide them a consultation, mentorship, different services from our partners. At the same time, we provide them a grant as an NTDP, 150,000 riyal, which is almost $40,000 per startup and based on the milestone. So you're going to be incubated. You're going to spend time there, get the consultation you need, working on your MVP, and you're going to get the grant. Actually, after that, we're going to have different projects. So let's say we have an empowering accelerator. So one of the initiative is actually all the initiative focusing on the tech startup, tech entrepreneurs, as I mentioned before, but in empowering accelerator, we focusing on the accelerator. So in this initiative, we aim to attracting the best local and accelerator that adapt the best practices, also backed by PC. So we have now more than 6 accelerator. We have Startup Wise Guys, we have Antler, we have Spark Lab, we have Startup Bootcamp. So all these accelerators, they invest in the startup from day one. And they provide the necessary consultation, mentorship to help the startup grow, having sustainable business in the ecosystem. Also, we have Relocate. So Relocate, it's for foreign startup, non-Saudi startup who want to relocate here in Saudi. And this is actually the initiative we have set up as a partner for us. So we provide them, there is a packages depend on the company size, investment, attractions, revenue. But the support we provide, it's a grant up to 5 million riyal. And we help facilitate their relocate here in Saudi and opening the CR, bank account, etc. Actually, we have Saudi Unicorn. So Saudi Unicorn is focusing on high growth startups being or made to be a unicorn in the next 5 or 10 years. We provide them a lot of financial, also services support. We have different partners also in this initiative from Ministry of Communication, from MESC, and we have, alhamdulillah, now more than 35 companies incubated in this initiative. Also, we have Lentec. So Lentec enables the micro, small, and medium technology companies or startups to obtain the financing with lended conditions actually that suit technology companies, with financing up to 8.5 million Saudi riyal. So it's loan with one of our partners. We have a partner also in this initiative. It's the social bank, actually, to helping you getting the loan you need up to 8 million with the flexibility regarding the investment rate, regarding the installment, or regarding the payment. Also, we have Fuel, SourceTech, Transformix, actually, also AIM and FundSwift. This 5 initiatives we have been launched them through and last leap, actually, and all of them we're focusing definitely for the startup and tech entrepreneurs. So let's start it with Fuel. So Fuel is actually it's a fund, or it's facilitating to enabling the VC fund to investing in the deep tech and emerging tech startups from actually pre-seed to pre-IPO stage. And we're still actually working on develop this project. We're still working to have a partner in this project. And we have SourceTech. So SourceTech is a grant-based project designed to incentivize the IT outsourcing firms to enable and expand their services within Saudi Arabia, with a grant actually amount up to 1 million Saudi riyals for each supported company. Also, we have TransformX. So it's a grant-based project designed to bridge actually the technology gap for the startup to accelerate the cloud adoption with a grant amount up to 1 million riyals to support the startup. Also, actually, we have AIM. So AIM is providing access to R&D infrastructure, talented development, also provide access to the venture building. And also we have FundSwift. So FundSwift is providing bridge financing for the startup closed early stage investment to be repaid actually after VC capital development, with financing amount equal to 50% of VC's commitment to 5 million, up to actually 5 million riyal we paid for each startup. And we have venture debt, actually also another loan program with startup in areas, Series A stage. And we have also Bridge and Connect. So Bridge, it's helping the startup to expand the Saudi startup, or the startup having a CR here in Saudi, and they want to expand exposure to their businesses out of Saudi. So we provide them a lot of facilities, a lot of support. It's a grant base, so we provide them a grant up to 5 million riyal to, scouting, scanning the market, and, accessing a new market. And we have Connect. Actually, Connect, it's usually coming, so the startup having their MVP and starting to have the tractions, and they enter to one of the accelerator and getting the investment they need. And this is the right time to them to have a client, right? So on the Connect, actually, we connect the small startups with the big companies, the tech companies. We're talking about like Microsoft, for example, Neom, this kind of companies, to have a POC or covering their POC, proof of capability. So we give a grant up to 750,000 riyal per startup per POC for these startups to can have a project or have a client. Also, we have Lead It. So Lead It is offering a training program to qualify mid-experiences, technical talented. So when we're talking about tech talented, usually there is a gap. So we're providing a training with one of our partners. We have a Berkeley here. So for 6 months, for, that people that meant to be CEO or might develop themselves to be in the middle career path. And actually it's also, it's company based. So usually the company is starting to register their employee that they think they're going to be like next CTO, for example. We have loan guarantee. So this is one of our, actually, when we start with this project, so there were a kafala providing the amazing initiative to guarantee the loan for SMEs. So we partnered with kafala to support the tech startups. So you're gonna get the guarantee up to 90% of the loan with our partner here, kafala. So you could get the loan you need, and you cannot, always worried about the guarantee as a startup, tech startup. So they're gonna support you in that. We have Boost also. So Boost is for actually talking about the startups and we're sitting with the startup. One of the main challenges they face is we have a job and we have responsibilities. We have a family, so we cannot just quit from a job or leave our job and focus on our business. So in Boost, actually, we're gonna subsidize their salary up to 1 year, and up to, actually for every company, it's up to 3 co-founders. We give them a salary so they could focus on their business. And in Boost also we have different partners. Yeah, so the money is important. At the same time, they need the knowledge they need. So we have different partners from entrepreneurs, from startup, also from the accelerator. They help the startup, getting the support needed, knowledge needed to develop their business, and we covering their salary. Actually, this is for Saudi co-founders. So this is the engine going to be just for Saudi. And we have Next Era. So Next Era, it's R&D solution with our also partner Cows. So Cows provide, labs, consultation with startup need, and we provide a grant up to 3 million riyal per startup. It should be in R&D, as I mentioned. So we have, last but not least, actually we have Ticket Crew. So Ticket Crew is salary subsidy also. So if this company want to hiring, as George mentioned, so we're gonna, gonna come here in Saudi, starting hiring a team. And if you're gonna hiring tech talent team, our Saudi tech talent team, we're gonna covering 50% of their salary in this initiative. So this is in a nutshell NTDP and the project we have. We actually always any gap that we see, any challenges the startup facing in the ecosystem, we are actually trying as a team, and usually we have a project to fill this kind of gap. And actually here an overview regarding the project we have, and here our barcode. So all the information I mentioned today, you can just go to our website. You're gonna find the information there, and you can feel free to just contacting our team. Actually, on the website, you're gonna find their email and their phone, our customer care, so they could answering any your question, and I'm here to answering that. Rather than that, actually, feel free to. So all the initiative we provide, it's for the companies have commercial registration, which is exist here in Saudi. So provide even they're foreign company or they're non-Saudi company. You just need to have Saudi sales, so you can benefit. Just maybe Boost and Next Era, you just need to have a Saudi employee, so they could benefit from. Any question on that?
Oh yes, this is amazing, Aisha. Thank you so much. This is already fantastic to see that the government through NTDP is offering a full end-to-end support from idea to unicorn. And I understand that NTDP is like an umbrella that is hosting a full ecosystem of private sector partners who are supporting startups in KSA and also beyond. So one of the questions that you have touched base on at the very end is like, which programs are relevant for startups who are already incorporated in Saudi and which are open for those who are not yet there. So if I'm a startup who is considering to come to Saudi, do I contact NTDP? Do I check program by program, where do I fit? And then contact the organization that is implementing it. So how do you see the course of action for somebody coming from outside?
Yeah, definitely. So our channel is open. You can contact us on any channel, website, Twitter, whatever, the channel it's comfortable for you. Rather than that, I have been mentioned 2 projects, actually. I believe this is for a foreign company, which is Relocate. So Relocate, even you don't have a CR now, and you planning to be here in Saudi, so you can just go to the website, register there, and the team gonna inshallah answering. If you have any question, just go to the customer care. If you want to register on this, just go to the website and register, and the team gonna reply on your application. Actually, we have a process in every project. We have different governance, but I believe they're gonna reply definitely to your application. If you have, they're gonna ask you some information if they need it, and etc. The other project we have is empowering accelerators. So usually we have an accelerator, and unfortunately this is closed now, and it's gonna reopen inshallah next year. So any accelerator can apply there, and any foreign company can apply with any accelerator that we have. So now we have more than 6, as I mentioned, and one of the, let's say, Startup Wise guys. So Startup Wise guys, they're opening their cohort now for registration. So you can just go to the Startup Wise guys, go to Saudi Arabia, and you're gonna find the application there. You can register if you are in prop tech. And we have different accelerators like Flatix Lab, you can register on them, even you are a Saudi company. So they're gonna helping you to relocate here in Saudi.
Amazing. A question from the audience about the possibility to consider the MVP lab if I have a business idea, but I'm based outside of Saudi. Would that work?
So far, it's actually we asking you to have the Saudi CR, but we have different partners. As I mentioned, for example, is Antler. So you can register with Antler, and you can get the MVP lab in the same time the grant. The grant actually in the same time the investment from Antler. But actually, as a direct now, it's just on our website. It's just for startup having the Saudi CR.
Okay, fantastic. Another question regarding the sectors. Are there any is there a focus on specific sectors that get more support than others because of an alignment with the strategy, with focus areas?
Actually, we are sector agnostic. We're focusing on the tech ecosystem. So any industries there, we support them. So you're gonna find some of our startups in prop tech and space tech, even in food tech. So we are sector agnostic. So wherever the startup is at any sector, it should just to be tech, and definitely they're gonna find some product that fit them.
Fantastic. This is amazing. Really impressive. Thank you very much, Aisha. This is an amazing work, and sounds to be super welcoming for international startups, and also very diverse in terms of value proposition. Again, feel free to connect directly with the service center of NTDP, or contact us, and they will share with you the contacts of NTDP and the team there.
Definitely.
Thank you so much,
please
Aisha.
Feel free to contact us. Actually, we have our customer care. Maybe you can share, Amel, also my number. Anyone have any question, feel free just to contact us directly. We would be more than happy to help you.
This is very kind. Thank you so much, Aisha.
Thank
Cool. Fantastic. Thank you for taking the time to talking to us. And we're ready for our next conversation, but maybe a quick reminder of our agenda today, so that you can stay with us when it comes to the flow of the ideas and content that will be shared. So we had Georges from Astrolabs giving us an overview about how to set up in Saudi, and listing very quickly the prerequisites and what you have to do to set up your business in Saudi, and how you are eligible to that. And then Aisha gave us an overview about all the initiatives and the programs that are offered by the National Technology Development Program. We'll now have Sarah presenting from Sanable Investments, presenting the VC and investment ecosystem, and then we'll have Raad from Techstars giving us an overview about the support programs that are around in Saudi when it comes to different stages of supporting startups. Arwa from The Garage will give us an overview about this iconic place and the programs that are running there. And then we'll have a conversation with Foodix and Predictiva. So Foodix is represented now by Omar Abdulrahman, who is the Chief Strategy Officer. Jamel is in a super critical fundraising conversation. We can totally understand. This is a unicorn with big ambitions. This comes priority. This has, of course, priority. And Ashraf Atiya, co-founder of Predictiva, will have a conversation sharing with us their stories and their link to Saudi and how they see the Saudi ecosystem and how to make it in Saudi from outside of Saudi, so depending on their own experiences. So now I'm handing over to Sarah, Senior Associate at Sanabel Investments. Welcome, Sarah. So this is going to be a conversation. This is going to be a conversation with Sarah. We'll take a break from slides. Sarah, hi, say hi.
Ahlan wa
Hi,
everyone. How are you, Amel? Great to see you again.
Fantastic.
And, hi, everyone. So let me just give a quick brief about myself and about my entity, and then we can jump into the questions that we would like to answer and maybe open the floor for others if they have any questions about Saudi. So I'm Sarah Mubarak. I'm heading sector development at Sanabel Investments. And to give a quick brief about Sanabel, Sanabel is a sovereign wealth fund. We are a part of the PIF family. We focus on alternative investments, private equity, venture capital. We've been investing in venture capital for the past 10 years, since 2019 specifically. We've been focusing on later stages, and since 2021, we started our exposure in the early stage investments.
This is so cool. And for anyone who doesn't know what the PIF is, it's the Public Investment Fund. It's the Saudi sovereign fund, maybe the biggest globally or the second biggest. PIF operates through different arms, and Sanabel is connecting PIF to the VC private equity space, etc. So I think Sarah, you are the best person who can give us an investment landscape in general, especially with the relation to VC in Saudi. What kind of role Sanabel is playing in that? Just to have the global picture or the big picture first.
Okay, so maybe let's start with an overview about the VC, specifically investment in Saudi Arabia. So I was working with an incubator in 2012, and it was extremely difficult to be able to raise $100,000 to any venture. Venture capital as an asset class did not exist in people's mind at that time. If you fast forward to 2015, we see a bit of encouragement in that space. We had 10 deals, $10 million in total of funding in that year. In 2016, then we've seen a lot of movement in the VC sector with the introduction of Saudi venture capital and other government support that caused a huge jump in investments in Saudi. If we fast forward to end of last year, we see that the number of deals jumped to 136 deals in 1 year, and the amount of investment in the VC asset class jumped to $1.4 billion within 1 year, with 800 million of that focusing on late stage funding and what we call mega deals, which is $100 million and above.
Okay, cool. This sounds like big numbers, but maybe Sarah can bring it closer to the startup space. So how does the VC space look like today in Saudi? Is there a specific focus on a stage, on a specific stage or specific industries? Just coming maybe closer to the field. Sure. When it comes to investment and investment opportunities.
So if we look at the 1.4 billion that was invested in last year, we said 800 is in late stage. So that gives us 600 million in different early stages, starting from pre-seed, seed, and Series A. So we've seen a lot of investment moving to that area. And if you look actually a little bit granular detail, in 2023, the investments have dropped a little bit since 2022. In 2022, there was a lot of investments coming in the region and a lot of, if we might say, unsophisticated investors trying to explore that region, that asset class. I think in 2023 and 2024, we've seen a correction in that space, and now most of the VCs in the market they know how to help a venture, they know how to support ventures. If do you want us to take a closer look on Sanabel and what you do, or do you want
Yes, that would be lovely.
Focus generally? Sure. So in Sanabel, as I said, we've been since 2019 focusing on venture capital, and we started focusing on late stage only. So we did the Series B and above because a lot of funding in Saudi at that time was going to the early stage, and a lot of startups have reached that later stage. You're talking to FedEx, which is one of our portfolio companies that have successfully raised Series B and some follow-on funding from Sanabel as well. We've been slowly expanding into earlier stages as we grow. So we have some exposure in Series A, and in 2021 we have launched our seed exposure with our first accelerator program with 500 Global. So since 2021, we've invested more than $25 million into more than 100 companies in the seed stage. And in that program, we target companies from the vast MENA region. And it's not a prerequisite for them to move to Saudi, but most of them, when they come to Saudi, attend the accelerator program, get that funding, they see the value of the size of the Saudi market and the support that's available in the Saudi market. So most of our companies have moved their headquarters to Saudi, or at least move some of their operation to Saudi. In addition to our Sanabel 500 accelerator program, last year in 2023, we established our first venture studio to kickstart our pre-seed exposure in the VC asset class.
Wow! So you cover the mega deals until the venture building. So you are really an end-to-end platform from that sense. So it's like the challenge for an international startup is actually the diversity of the offer in the market when it comes to what type of what support is relevant for me. And so it's we're definitely not talking about scarcity here. And you've mentioned investments in MENA. So do you invest in funds in other VCs in MENA, or do you invest also directly along with MENA VCs, MENA partners? If I'm a MENA startup, how do I connect with your investment strategy?
Okay, so let's cover funds first. So we do invest in VC funds, but usually in international VC funds. For MENA, we usually prefer to go direct because we know the market very well, and we have the bandwidth to cover the whole stages from pre-seed to pre-IPO. If you are a startup in the MENA region, and you, I'll later talk about sectors and opportunities in the market where you can attract. But if you are a startup in the MENA region and you want to raise funds from Sanabel, if you are in the seed stage, I would highly recommend you go to the accelerator route. And I think, Amel, you have the link to our accelerator. If not, I'll share it with you later. Any company that's existing in the MENA region or have a MENA founder will be eligible to apply to that program. And that program is a 12-week program with an equity investment. Usually, I think at the last cohort, we've averaged around $250,000 ticket size investments. And the major value other than the funding is the access. So you will immediately get access to the 500 global portfolio worldwide, from Korea to Silicon Valley and to Sanabel help and support, and all of the Saudi support that can come with you. And also we help them with the MISA license and establishing in Saudi, and even connecting them with local GMs to run their businesses in Saudi. However, if you are in a later stage, past seed, if you are in Series A or in Series B, we do have our own scouts. You can definitely, if you you can ask Amel, you can send me your profile, but usually we do have a very intensive scan to the market, so we identify those opportunities earlier on.
Okay, this is this is amazing. And speaking about specific industries and areas that are or preferred industries, is there any specific attention by investors in Saudi Arabia when it comes to industries? Yeah, and
so if we talk about industries in general and opportunities, we've seen a huge focus on fintech. And the main reason behind this focus is the highly advanced digital infrastructure of Saudi government and Saudi banking system. So in Saudi, you can open your bank account. Talk about personal bank account. When it gets to businesses, it gets complicated. But let's talk about personal bank account. You can open it within minutes from the comfort of your home. We have a young tech-savvy population, so all of them are demanding everything to be done with a click of button, and the banking system have been able to do that. So when fintech industry came, everything was ready, and we have a plethora of talent. So the banking system, the banking in Saudi, I think we have almost 100% Saudization of the jobs there. So if you want to do a fintech on B2B payment, you will find a lot of talent in that specific area. If you want to do a fintech on e-wallets, you'll find a lot of talent. So the availability of talent, the availability of the hunger of the population to easy fintech financial solutions, and the digitization of the systems has made fintech a great area to keep creating new innovations and attracting investment with great success stories. We have, for example, Tamara, Buy Now Pay Later. They're one of Sanaba's portfolio companies, and they've been able to attract multiple international investors on their cap table, be it Checkout or even Goldman Sachs as on their cap table. Other than fintech, which I think is still has a lot of areas to deliver, we've been seeing a growth in consumer space and e-commerce. Again, pulling back on the tech-savvy population, the huge number of people. So we have more than 30 million people residing in Saudi, and they are considering quality of life as a very important factor in their life. So, and they have a good income that they can afford to spend on things to improve their quality of life. If we think about where are the untapped, or where are opportunities that haven't yet been explored, and industries with multiple challenges, we can think about logistics, healthcare, and cybersecurity. For healthcare specifically, the digitization have not yet like follow the pace of the rest of the Saudi economy and the Saudi government digitization. It's because of the sensitivity of patient profiles, security, and security of information. This has created a lot of delay in digitizing that. We have a lot of telemedicine ventures, and that's it. So I think there's a big room to improve there, whether it's software, enterprise software for health tech, huge health tech operations, whether it's hospitals, clinics, or government, or solutions to help the doctors, or solution in healthcare and wellness in general. And if we look at logistics as well, we've seen a lot of innovation in the last mile delivery, but I'm sure if you know any Saudi or anyone living in Saudi, they will be complaining about how the traffic is getting horrible day after day. So anything that will help in that area will be is a great threat for everyone, and it's been a focus of Saudi government and all the Saudi corporations. So any innovation, any startup in that area, if they are able to solve the challenges, I think they have huge opportunities.
This is amazing, and of course everyone is invited to go to check the country's strategies. Lots of mega projects that are running right now that will require a lot of innovation. So the opportunity is massive. One last question, Sarah, regarding the future outlook. How do you see the future direction of VC in the region in general, and in Saudi specifically?
So Saudi has been seen previously as a source of capital for many businesses and many startups and many funds, but I've seen this change rapidly in the past years. So now with the government initiative Vision 2030, which is more than 80% achieved today, a lot of regulatory reforms that happened, and the digital transformation, we've seen talent moving to Saudi, and this will mean more IP and more innovation happening in the creating businesses within Saudi. We've seen a lot of companies moving their headquarters and moving their first operation in Saudi. So I think what we'll see is more VCs, international VCs, coming to the region to look for successful opportunities and areas to invest in. More talent is moving to Saudi because they understand there are a lot of opportunities to explore. So finding talent has been easier, and we anticipate that will be even more so in the coming future. We think so far we are the #1 in funds raised, #2 in the region, #2 in number of deals. I think we will continue that leadership and grow even further. We have started to see some successful exits in the market, with companies going to public markets and some companies being acquired by other local companies. I anticipate more exit opportunities that will create more financial returns in hands of founders, and we'll see second round, third round founders. So we'll see those serial entrepreneurs creating more startups and more exits in the market. And the next step that I wish we can achieve is to have innovation in the deep tech space, which I think we're still lagging in Saudi.
Okay. Question from the audience, Sarah, is about East, West Africa. We have been talking about MENA. How about the rest of Africa?
Honestly, we don't have a direct exposure right now in East and West Africa. We've been exploring in Asia a little bit, India a little bit. So we do explore. We are a small team, so we explore gradually, and we have to understand the market and all the dynamics in the market before we can do our investments.
Yeah, you are a small team with a massive impact. So congratulations for that. Questions about how to apply for sustainable investments. So this question was already addressed by Sarah. We depending on your stage, if you are in the seed stage, you might consider to go through the acceleration program. 500, it was shared in the chat. We are happy to share it again. But when it comes to bigger tickets, Sarah, if the startup is in Series A, Series B, so beyond acceleration, is there space for the startup to contact Enable directly?
You can contact them directly if you have someone, but we don't have a public channel that you can direct a question. But if you know someone, or you can know, like Amel can guide us, can send us the opportunities there. But again, it is a pull from us rather than opening for application.
Very clear. Thank you so much, Sarah. It was really a pleasure to have you with us today, and thank you for all the insights you have shared. Congratulations for the amazing work. Keep it up.
Thank you very much, Emma. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. So, and now we're ready to move to continue with the support programs. So we have been touching upon this topic. What are the support programs? Who is around there? Accelerators, incubators, and we'll know more now with Raad Hashani from who is a program manager at Techstars in Riyadh. Raad, raise your hand, raise your voice, say hi. Hey.
Yeah. Good to see you again.
Hey, fantastic. So good to see you again. Cool. So, Rad, a quick introduction about yourself, and please feel free to share your slides, and let's get directly into the support ecosystem.
Sure. Just to confirm, you can see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. All right. First of all, good evening, everyone. My name is Rad Hashani. I'm a program manager at Techstars here in Saudi Arabia. It's really a pleasure to be with you all today for this exciting session. Over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to provide a high-level overview of the incubation and acceleration landscape in Saudi, giving you some insights into what makes it unique and attractive for startups. Should I start?
Go ahead.
All right.
We're all ears and eyes.
All right. Awesome. Just make sure. All right. Before diving into the specifics, let me start by putting things into context. Saudi Arabia is undergoing a huge transformation under its Vision 2030, which aims to diversify the economy beyond oil and create a thriving economy. A big part of it is cultivating the entrepreneurial ecosystem. The vision has unlocked a lot of opportunities for startups and entrepreneurs, fueled by government backing, involvement from the private sector, and international partnerships as well. In just a few years, Saudi has emerged as a startup hub with a growing number of incubators, accelerators, and even venture capitalists, all designed to help and scale startups, both regionally and globally. It's important to distinguish between incubation and acceleration programs in Saudi. Incubators are mainly focused towards nurturing early stage startups. They typically focus on ideation, product development, and providing founders with critical support, such as mentorship, access to network, and sometimes funding. Acceleration, on the other hand, is more structured and time-bound, often targeting startups that have validated products and are looking to scale fast. Acceleration programs offer a mix of capital, strategic guidance, and access to market. It's perfect for startups ready to basically gain traction, right? These are some of the notable operators, not all of them, of course, and they all have different offerings such as perks and after program support. You will need to do a little research to see what fits your project. You've heard a few of them with us on the call today. What you might also need to know is that some are investment backed and others are investment and equity free. Some are in person and others are virtual or hybrid. But mostly they all believe in three main things. And I think the main three things would be the program plus capital plus network equals opportunity. Programs could be translated into education part, basically. Capital will be the fundraising, and then the network that these operators come in with will all create opportunities for these startups. What's exciting about Saudi is the rapid growth and diversity of incubation and acceleration opportunities. You will find a mix of government-led initiatives, like the ones you've seen today, private sector accelerators, mostly local or regional, and also you will find incubators. Sometimes they are university-based incubators. Each type serves as a unique role. Government programs tend to focus on national priorities like sustainability, digital transformation, often linking startups to critical infrastructure and regulatory support. Private sector programs, on the other hand, are more agile and they are investor-driven, focusing on commercialization and scaling. And then lastly, the incubators or university-based incubators nurture talents and ideas, providing support for early-stage companies and to students and young entrepreneurs. What's unique here is the level of collaboration. Many incubators and accelerator partners with global entities like Techstars and other international programs, bringing world-class resources to local founders. You heard this just from Sarah right now. As a result, entrepreneurs benefit from a blend of local expertise and global best practices. I would put it that way. I want to talk about some of the key trends that are shaping the ecosystem. I think number one would be focus on emerging sectors. Two would be expanding access to capital. And three would be international and regional integration. Let's take the first one. There's a strong push towards sectors like fintech, healthcare, e-commerce, logistics, and recently deep tech and AI, all driven by Vision 2030 priorities. The second one, beyond traditional funding, Saudi is seeing a rise in angel networks, family offices, participation, and more mature VC landscape, making funding more accessible to scaling startups. Lastly, many programs are focused on creating cross-border linkage, making Saudi not just a local, but regional and global player in the startup space. Okay, just a final takeaway before jumping a little bit into Techstars in case some here doesn't know, need a bit of introduction. So Saudi's incubation accelerator ecosystem is evolving very fast, supported by a strong vision, growing capital flows, and an increasing focus on emerging sectors. All has been covered in this call, in this webinar so far. For founders, this means a robust support system, opportunities for strategic growth, and access to rapidly expanding market. Whether you're looking to launch, validate, or even scale your company, I think Saudi has something to offer. You should really look into it and really consider it. So let's talk a little bit about Techstars. Today, our mission is to enable everyone on the planet to contribute to and benefit from entrepreneur success. At Techstars, we believe that results are borne out by the numbers. Here you can see some of Techstars' results since its inception in 2007. I just want to highlight some of the main ones. Since 2007, Techstars invested in over 4,000 startups, making Techstars the largest investor in early-stage startups in the world, with a cumulative market cap of over $100 billion. Our record also show that most of the startups that go through one of our accelerators around the world are able to raise at least $1 million in their first 18 months post-program. Today, the total lifetime raised from all accelerator companies is almost $30 billion. Let me just shed some light on what Techstars look for when we invest. We have 6 main pillars, and as you can see, the first 3 pillars are team. Then we look at the market, their traction, and the idea itself. It's not that the idea is not important, but we believe that ideas can always change, they can pivot or evolve. And what stays constant really is the founders. That's why we always say we invest in founders, not companies. You will always also hear us say founder first. It's a saying that we have internally in the company. Just quickly, we work with some of the best startups and corporations in the world, including so far 20 accelerator unicorns and public companies with over $1 billion valuation. Here you can see some of the global partners on the right, and the list of the 20 unicorns who are public today on the left side. Jumping into our local portfolio or local initiatives in Saudi Arabia. We also work with some of the best startups and government entities and corporations in Saudi. So far, we ran 2 accelerator programs in Saudi in 2022 and 2023 in partnership with the Ministry of Communication IT, or MCIT, along with Ride Ventures and the Saudi National Bank. On the left side, you can see the companies we've invested in the past few years in Saudi, which is about 20, if I'm not mistaken. And I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all. I hope that I've shed some light on Saudi. MashaAllah, everybody before me did an amazing job. Happy to answer any questions, or you can also connect with me afterwards. Feel free to scan the code if you want to connect with me or my colleagues. And also, there's an interest form there for founders interested to be part of the upcoming Techstars programs. Please feel free to submit your interest, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Rad. This was very clear, super insightful. Maybe a first question from my side. So how important or how critical it is for an international startup to join an acceleration program like Techstars or others to be able to connect with the Saudi market? Is it just a plus or is it a must from content, but also from a feasibility, I mean, and in that administrative perspective, how does that work?
So, look, I honestly think it depends on the size of the company. George, I hope I'm not, who is it, George, the first one from Astrolabs, mentioned it very clearly. If you are an early stage startup, I don't want to say you definitely need to join an accelerator, but it helps a lot, especially with setting up your company, getting your CR ready and all of that. You cannot do that on your own. If you're a startup, you would probably need another entity to do it for you, like Astrolabs, or it could be another incubator or an accelerator. So there is that part that kind of helps soft land foreign companies into Saudi. Other than that, you get access to capital, and most importantly is the network and getting access to the local ecosystem. If you're going to do that on your own, it's going to take a while and a lot of hard work. I'm not saying that it is mandatory to join an accelerator, but I think from what I'm seeing, the companies that do join accelerator, they do mitigate a lot of the risk of failure in general. So why not do it, right? If it helps you soft land, if it helps you mitigate the risk, if it helps you get some capital, setting up your company in Saudi, I think it's worth a try.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all success ingredients gathered. I remember one thing I forgot to ask George is about, so we asked about the timeline, we asked about the complexity, but how about the cost? Is there a number you can mention? Because there were a few years ago, it was like the numbers were astronomical about the cost of setting up in Saudi. How did this change in the meanwhile?
Yeah, I think he did mention a little bit. So, but maybe it was just between the lines. So basically, the cost of setting up a company in Saudi for a startup is a lot cheaper than an SME or a big corporation. I don't know how much exactly. If I'm not mistaken, it could be 2,000 riyals per year. And then after a few years, after 5 years, that will go up to 60K when you're almost like an SMA company and actually have customers and revenue. But definitely there is a cost to it. But the good thing with most of the government projects or government-led initiatives, namely NTDP mentioned it earlier, that they do subsidize some of the cost and or help at least the founders get the best deal of the market, right? Or you can directly go to one of the companies that are focused on doing this as a service.
This is great. Checking if there are any questions from the audience. And yeah, I think we're good. You can ask your questions in the chat or else in the app. You just go to the icon in the apps and then you check Slido and you can ask your question there as well. Okay, and we are perfectly on time. Thank you so much, Rad, for sharing and for being there and for being open to connect with people from all over the world who are interested in Techstars Riyadh and beyond Techstars. Thank you so much, Rad.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure and to be here. Really, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Fantastic. And now we're moving to that iconic space called the Garage, presented by Arwa Shafi. She's a senior manager at the Garage, and she has always been in the last years a very important player in the ecosystem. Arwa, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Now we can see you. Hi. Great to have you, Arwa. So yeah, let's jump directly into it. If you can share a quick presentation of yourself, and then we dive directly into the Garage.
Sure. So my name is Arwa Shafi. I've been part of the entrepreneurship ecosystem my whole career. I started back in 2012-13 as a founder myself, gave it a try for 2 years, realized I'm not up for it yet. So I shifted to the other side of the startup enablement side, and I've been working in that since then. I'm currently in Garage as head of programs. I'll tell you more about it briefly. But before that, I was working in KAUST, King Abdullah University for Science and Technology, for more than 7 years. I led the Taqaddam Accelerator program there, if you're familiar with it. But we also did all type of innovation and entrepreneurship programs. And before that, I was working with another very old accelerator called ACMAC, if any of you were here or familiar with the history of it. So basically, all I do is how to do entrepreneurship programs. God forbid if that industry shut down for any minute, I have no idea what to do with my career, but hopefully it won't, at least for the upcoming period, since entrepreneurship is a very important component for Saudi specifically and for any GDP, to be honest. So I've seen Raad's and Sarah's presentations. I'll try not to be redundant and repeat a lot of the things they mentioned, but I do want to give you a high-level understanding of Saudi as a market. And then we jump into some of the entities that you need to start following, read their website, if you're seriously considering expanding to Saudi, and then we'll go and talk about Garage, inshallah.
Brilliant. Let's do that.
Type. Let me know if you can see my screen as a full screen.
Can.
Perfect. Tamam. So Saudi is known to be a desert, but in reality, it's not just a desert. I come from a West Coast. We have mountains, we have seas, we have rivers, believe me. But it's also a big market. And I think one of the biggest challenges with startups who are considering expanding to Saudi is they don't do enough research. Yes, it's a big market. There is a lot of money here. There is a lot of change and transformation. It means there is a lot of adaptation for technology. There is a lot of adaptation for innovations and new solutions. But it also means you're not the only one thinking about entering the market. So the competition is very high. One of the biggest mistakes we see very often startups do when they're expanding to Saudi is they do not do enough research. By research, we do not just mean you read the vision and you know, okay, so I am aligned with the vision and then that's it. Believe me, everybody says that. I could say I'm aligned with the vision. Well, I should. If you're going to enter the market, you should be aligned with the vision. So it's a non-given. The question becomes, which pillar are you aligned with? Which initiatives are more relevant to you? Which KPIs you help in establish or you help in fulfilling? That and level of understanding, believe me, it's not just a one-day research. It's going to take you months and months to do. My advice is do that before you come to the market. Because what a lot of startups do is they think being there will make it easier. Well, it does to an extent, but if you didn't do that reading before, it will just take you longer. And that means resources and time and a lot of money wasted. So read about the vision, but read it in details. Understand which of their pillars do you fill in, which of the entities relevant are you most relevant basically for, and then start from there. The minute you understand where will you fit in the market, the better and easier it will be for you. You'll know who to target, and you'll know how will you be positioned against everybody else, and you'll also understand who are the players in that market, whether it's competition or other entities that are trying to do a lot of things. So the biggest and the first question would be, do you understand it enough? And then do you know if you're ready for it? So we mentioned a lot of entities and a lot of projects. I'm sure you've all heard of the mega projects. That in itself have a lot of opportunities and a lot of appetite for risk, if I would say, because they are trying to build something new. They are willing to adapt new solutions, even with startups. We have a lot of companies, whether it's Garage, whether it's previously from KAUST or other accelerator, that have actually gotten very big contracts from some of their giga projects because of the solutions that they're providing. So there is room for innovation today more than ever before if you are able to sell your product or your innovation. But it's not just that. So the mega projects are mostly privately operated. There is a huge diversity there. So you might actually have a connection that can connect you to any of these projects. But the way the entities in Saudi work today, you have the ministries, which are, remember, they're governing bodies, the regulators. So do not ever think about selling to a ministry. The ministry, the best that they can do is they can give you a bit of exposure. They might be able to give you validation. But another mistake that I see startups very often fall into is they try to target that governmental body, thinking if the ministry give me a go, then anybody, basically all of the other companies will buy my product or my service and I'll be validated. Well, it's a yes and no. It will come as a referral, that's for sure, but there's no guarantee at all that that referral will convert into sale. So try to understand that dynamic. Try to know the role of the ministries. Now, it can be confusing because in Saudi specifically, a lot of ministries might come and get involved a bit in execution. They might oversee project directly, which usually ministries don't, but that does not mean that they have the authority or the influence or the power to widen your network or to kind of force or refer or I can't remember the word right now, but make it mandatory for your solution to be implemented. That's not the case. You have to know who are the entities that are making the decisions on that specific project, and it's going to be complicated because there's always multiple entities involved, and then target those entities. But in general, a rule of thumb would be ministries are governing bodies. It's good to establish connections. It's good for them to know you and have you under their radar, but do not think of selling to them. And then you have the semi-government bodies, which are commissions, authorities, associations. Those are something in between. So they're not a privately operated company. They might execute some of the initiatives, but they're not a regulator or a completely governing body either. Now, most of the times it is easier to start talking to a commission or an authority, especially if you do something regarding governance, if you do something regarding tracking and monitoring projects, if you do something that fits their mandate of being a more execution arm for the ministry, then that might be relevant to you. Like we've had meetings with a lot of authorities and commissions, for example, that were interested in something regarding tracking KPIs on a huge level of like thousands of different pillars and projects. But they were doing it for their own. If you do something related to digitization and digital transformation, then yes, that might be relevant to you. But for example, if you do something in logistics and supply chain, it won't make sense for you to go and talk to the ministry or even the authority for transportation for them to open doors for you. It is going to take you a very long time. You're going to go through a lot of meetings, but you're not going to get anywhere. It's better for that time to be spent on talking to your clients directly and trying to pinpoint them, identify them, and then target them. Now, even if these commissions or authorities or ministries are the overseeing authority of some of the projects, for example, like Riyadh Train or Riyadh Metro or the Subul, which is like the Saudi Postal Office, still, if you talk to that organization directly, it will be a lot better for you. It will cut you a lot more short time. Now, keeping in mind, it depends on who is the decision maker for that in that organization regarding your concerns project or solution. Try to identify that person and then try to reach him. Most of the time, by the way, the hardest part is identifying who's the responsible person. That will require a lot of inquiry. But the minute you know who that person is, it'll be very easy to reach them. A lot of those people are available on LinkedIn and they will respond. One trick I do is if I know anybody in that entity and I know how their email format is, you can easily get the person email. You can just see their name on LinkedIn and then type it the same way that email format is for that organization, and then you have that person contact immediately. And you can always ask around. People in Saudi, one good thing positive about Saudi is they are willing to help. We do not guard the connections. We do not think of it as like a sacred thing that I need to protect. Bilaks, yani people are willing to share their contact, willing to do introductions. But keep in mind, when you're asking for introductions, especially from someone who doesn't know you, bear in mind that they're still doing it out of the good of their own heart, but you can't ask them to do a referral, for example. It's like, it's different. It's different from saying, hey, I've met this guy. I think it might be interesting for you to meet and talk. But it's different from saying, hey, I met this guy and what they do is awesome, please use it. So even when you write them, like the introduction body, keep that in mind, that ideally it is high level, that you don't spare them basically the awkwardness or the embarrassment of having to edit your text and you'll see it. So have that power dynamic in mind. So another thing that you really need to account for is the expense and the time. That's the third mistake that I see very, very often. Saudi is not cheap. And you're going to have to come to Riyadh very often. Even for us Saudis, Riyadh is not cheap. So have that budget in mind, because especially for startups from outside of Saudi, coming from countries where the currency rates are very different, they run out of cash very quickly. 3 months is not going to be enough. 6 months is not going to be enough. Even a year might not be enough. So budget for yourself at least 2 years of being in Saudi or coming very frequently and very often for you to see the value out of it. And it's okay if you don't have that cash today. It just means you're not ready to expand to Saudi yet. But it's very important that you calculate the cost and be realistic about it. You can live a startup life to an extent in Riyadh, but at the end of the day, if real estate is expensive, if fuel is expensive, and if the city is big, so you're going to have to pay a lot for Uber and Careem, and it's expensive to eat out, then money is going to run out eventually. There are a lot of reports about real estate prices, about salary guides, about costs of establishing in Saudi. Just search. And the beauty of Saudi today is almost all of these reports are available in both Arabic and English. So depending on the concerned institution, a lot of these reports are available on the websites and on the Twitter or social media accounts of these organizations. Like MISA, so Ministry of Investment, does publish a lot of reports about investments in Saudi, which startup got the most investment, how big were the rounds, who led that round, etc. So you can find these informations easily online. Now, I know Google is becoming more and more specific about the location, but still, I would write salary guide Saudi MISA, for example, and something will come up. Now, we've covered basically understanding the market dynamics. Who are the players, who to talk to, who are the concerned entities. We've covered expenses and being ready for that. And we've covered knowing exactly who to talk to. I'm concerned of time, so I'll actually skip a few things. These are the entities that basically are highly active when it comes to the entrepreneurship and investment scene in Saudi. So some of my colleagues earlier mentioned them. Leap and Seamless are two huge events that I'm sure all of you have heard of. Now, Leap usually is a good opportunity to come to Saudi to explore, but because it's so huge and there's so much going on, think of it like going on like a very high level tour. So you're not going to get a lot of information or a lot of connection just because of the sheer size of it, but it's still a good opportunity. So if you're offered the opportunity to come during Leap, do it. And have like specific targets of people to talk to or entities to target during Leap. But keep in mind, it will be very high level. You just get to say hi, you'll exchange contact, and then you'll have to follow up right after. Seamless is very similar. Now, Seamless size-wise is a lot more contained, and it focuses on fintech, e-commerce, and I can't remember the third one. But if it's more relevant to you, then I would recommend, for example, coming for Seamless instead of Leap. Now, with Code, you have Code, Garage, and Misk and Chaos Entrepreneurship. These are 4 different entities that have a lot of programs. Now, when I say have a lot of programs, that means they do have very, very, very different programs. You'll have to check their websites, check which programs are more relevant to you. A lot of these entities have not mandates, but focus to take startups that are from outside of Saudis. But some of the initiatives are opposite, where it requires you to have a Saudi co-founder or a Saudi founder or a Saudi person. So it is going to take you a long time to go through the website, to go through the initiatives, but it's completely worth it. Now, MCIT, which is kind of the governmental entity that's responsible for entrepreneurship one way or another, they themselves have a lot of initiatives. They have a lot of initiatives that includes partnerships, that includes bringing startups from outside of Saudi. So following those social media accounts would be of relevance to you and benefits, and getting connected with them one way or another. Ministry of Investment is the regulator body for the entrepreneurship license, which is the category that allow foreign companies to establish in Saudi and create basically an operating company. But that I won't go into details with. I highly recommend to taking these names, note them down, take a screenshot if you want, and then check out their websites, read more information about it. Hopefully it will give you some sense of information. So we'll talk about Garage. Garage is an entrepreneurship hub. We call ourselves an innovation district. We're in the heart of Riyadh. We're very accessible from different directions. Now, Garage as an entity was established less than 2 years ago, but as like the place itself, which I'm sure many of you saw photos or maybe you've visited, is less than a year old, actually. So throughout that past year, we have dealt with more than 400 startups. We've supported them through the different programs. We've held more than 137 events in the venue. Thankfully, not all of them are organized by us. We have today more than 12 programs. And in terms of diversity, we have more than 50 nationalities across all of our programs. So we consider ourselves to be an international hub and very diverse. So this is our location. If you don't know Riyadh, we are literally in the center, a bit to the west. This is very accessible. So if you live in the north or the south or the east, this is very accessible. And we have plenty of parking, thankfully. No, when I said 12 programs, I actually meant it. These are the programs that takes place in Garage today. The upper two ones are our very own. So we have a Garage Plus, it's an accelerator program. And we have the Garage Incubator, which is an early stage deep tech initiative. And then we have all of these programs that takes place in Garage. They're hosted. It means if you enrolled in any of them, you will get access to Garage as a facility. You'll get access to the community. You have access to a lot of perks and benefits, but you're not a Garage alumni per se. Now, if you are part of these communities, you get this, basically. So in top of the programs, we have community events and community masterclasses, series of jalsat that happens throughout the month. That is open for everybody, even from outside of Garage to attend. So if you are ever in Riyadh, follow our social media. You can register to any of these sessions and walk in. Some of it is in Arabic, some of it is in English, and usually the post does specify which one is in which. So I'll stop here and I'll open the floor for questions.
Thank you so much, Arwa. This was a lot of fantastic content with an amazing energy. A recurring question in the audience is, where do I find the right resources to do my homework and pre-work before coming to Saudi? Is there a preferred place for resources, or do I just navigate the web? What do you recommend?
So that's a very good question. I would say start with MCIT's website, the Ministry of Telecommunication and IT. Start with the Ministry of Investment. So Ministry of Investment every year publishes a report or a guide on how to incorporate in Saudi. So they have a step-by-step guide on what do we need, how much will it cost, what is the processes, etc. MCIT and their accounts, they would retweet and repost a lot of the other initiatives that are happening that are under their umbrella. So that's a very good starting point. Another source, actually, I'll type it in the chat right after I close my screen. It's called the Saudi Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Directory. It's a website written and managed by Hassan Attar. He's a very well-known VC in the region, and he updates his directory as much as possible. There you will see a list of accelerators and incubators, a list of VCs, a list of support, co-working spaces, etc. Now, a question that was asked earlier, is it necessary to enter an accelerator program to enter the Saudi market? I won't say it's necessary, but it makes a huge difference. It's not the same, because the minute you are into an entrepreneurship program, an accelerator program, they will walk you through the process. You will have colleagues and friends and fellow founders that are going to tell you exactly how their journey went. And the journey is going to be different from each different models, different industries, different stages will have different journeys. So you'll have that, I would say, platform and community to start with. So if you ask me, I would say yes, it is necessary, to be honest. Otherwise, unless you are a super late stage company, so you are in series B and C, then you just want to expand to Saudi, you know exactly who your partner are, you know exactly which people are you're gonna hire. Honestly, otherwise, it makes sense for you to enter. Now, keep in mind, for example, Garage, Taqaddam, and also Misk, when we talk to international startups, usually they are at a later stage than our local companies. And it only makes sense because you're probably going to be in post-seed or pre-series A stage for you to think of expanding to another country, especially a big market like Saudi. So yes, you are at a later stage, But when you come to Saudi, you're actually very early stage. You're almost like establishing a company from scratch because you understand the market again, you have to make a lot of adjustment to your product, etc. So don't think that an accelerator would be maybe too little or too boring, that you will get a lot of benefits. We've had companies who are in Series A stage that got into our program and they still made a huge difference, especially that the focus with these programs is the Saudi market. So you'll find more relevant information.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Arwa. This was very rich and very insightful. And if there are no more questions, it's time for us to move to our fireside chat, the closing conversation with the startups. Thank you for taking the time, Arwa. See you around. We'll see you soon again. Thank you so much. Now, I'd love to invite our panelists, Ashraf and Omar. Omar, who is replacing Jamel, Omar from Abdulrahman from Fudix, and Ashraf Atiya, Predictiva. So welcome, guys, to this closing conversation. Say hi so that I can see you.
Hi. Can you hear me well?
Yes, Ashraf, hi.
All right.
Omar, are you
Hi,
there?
Amel.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, cool. I
hello.
can hear you. Both of you are there. Amazing. Thank you for taking the time to talking to startups from everywhere. So we're super interested to first starting with yourselves. Tell us more about you, your background, and then we're definitely super interested to know more about your own startups, about Fudix and Predictiva. So who jumps in? Ashraf, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I can start. Thanks for having me. It's a great discussion. A lot of information, a lot of useful resources. My name is Ashraf Atiya. I am the co-founder and CEO of Predictiva. My background is in system engineering and enterprise service delivery. I've been in the IT industry for about 25 years now. I worked in many countries. I worked in Egypt. I worked in Saudi, in Qatar, and then finally in the UK. I've been living in the UK for about 7 years now, and I started Predictiva with my co-founder, Sarah Hamouda, back in 2020. So that's a quick introduction about myself. About the company, Predictiva is an artificial intelligence fintech company, and we develop advanced AI algorithms for autonomous trading platforms. So if we put this in plain English, we help investment managers trade in different financial markets in a fully autonomous way. So the full process of trading, connecting to the market, connecting to the brokers is fully automated through the platform. All the buy and sell decisions are made by the AI algorithms. So that's in a nutshell what we do in Predictiva. We started in the UK back in 2020. So we've been in business for about 4 years now. We are at seed stage, or actually pre-Series A stage. So far, we've raised about $3 million in investments from different investors in UK and outside. Actually, our lead, or the biggest investor, is a Saudi investment company. And we have customers in the UK and in Saudi. And we found out that we started to have customers in Saudi, and actually our pipeline is growing with other customers from Saudi. So it made sense for us to open a branch in Saudi. So we opened our branch a few months ago in Riyadh. And yeah, we're looking to expand our business in Saudi.
Congratulations. Amazing
Thank
work.
you.
And I've heard you describe your startup in another interview as so you are creating an efficient money-making machine. I love that. And
Yes, exactly.
So for anyone who would like to know more about the money machines, explore Predictiva. And then the link to Saudi is kind of obvious. Your lead investor is from Saudi, and you're building a pipeline. So you're really going to market in Saudi. You're opening a branch office. Would love to hear more about this in a few. What made you consider Saudi? How did you end up finding the Saudi lead investor? All this is super precious as an experience for anybody who is considering to raise funds and also to expand to Saudi. Omar, tell us about about your background. You are in charge of the strategy for Foodix. This is a big thing. So big responsibility. Foodix is as a superstar, a unicorn in the Saudi ecosystem. Tell us about you and Foodix, please.
So I've been working for Foodix for about 1.5 years. I joined after working for a few startups, either based out of Saudi or launching into Saudi. So I worked in Nana, Kitobi prior to Foodix. When I joined Foodix initially, I was leading regional expansion. So the plan at that time was how to open new markets outside of Saudi. And then over time, started working on special projects, a few M&As, and eventually ended up becoming the person leading strategy overall. We're our Series C funded startup. We've raised over $170 million.
How much? How? 100?
$170 million.
170.
And one of our key investors, obviously, is Saidane, who were speaking earlier.
Yep.
And we're proud to be one of the successful Saudi unicorn startups, or about to be. And we continue growing and hope to inspire other startups like us from the region.
This is beautiful. So maybe more insights about Foodix. So what you do is actually the future of point of sale restaurant management systems. So what made you really focus on the Saudi ecosystem? Did you start in Saudi or you moved into Saudi?
So the founders are Ahmed Zaini and Musa Athmani. They launched this out of Khobar and initially out of a coffee shop, and eventually scaled it to becoming the market leader in Saudi for all restaurant management solutions. So today, Foodix holds over a 25% market share within the restaurant space, and soon we will start expanding into other verticals within retail, etc. So
okay.
yeah.
And I've heard in one of your interviews, so Foodix interviews, that your regional expansion, you were in charge of regional expansion. It was a big question whether we go into new markets or we expand and continue to expand in Saudi, because 300K users that would represent a new market is probably just a small expansion in Saudi, and it would be less of a hassle. So the focus has been in more on expanding into Saudi. Can you tell us more about that, about the size of the market, expansion strategy, considering all that?
So obviously, expansion at the heart of it is obviously looking back at your product. And we've built a strong market fit within our space. And we were scaling quite fast within our domain. We've become a brand within the F&B space. So at that point, it made more sense to extend the leverage within being a thought leader within the space to the region, because we were generating those leads. So it's not like we strategized it, if I'm being quite honest with you, although I probably shouldn't say that as a VP of strategy. But eventually, we were getting the leads. Even today, recently, we've decided to launch Iraq, or to start expanding into Iraq and planning for it a lot better. And it was because we were generating so many leads from Iraq and we were closing them. And obviously, when you have a very hungry sales team, they're not going to leave behind those leads. And they kept closing them either from Kuwait or from Qatar or from the Dubai office. So eventually we realized that if the customers are asking for it, then might as well bridge it, basically.
Of course.
We were doing also quite well if I take it back to also like key moments in our history. I think sometime around 2021, 2022, 2021, part of the Vision 2030 digitalization agenda, we had the Zakat and Tax Authority implementing the QR invoice. And for us SaaS players, especially in the point of sale space, it was quite, it was a great, almost organic flywheel to ride, because at the end, all the corner stores that were relying on these legacy computer-based point of sale systems now suddenly needed to be in the cloud to be able to issue that QR invoice. So it was, so part of, sometimes there's unknown advantages from a lot of this digitization that can actually help startups even ride a wave that you couldn't have seen coming, right?
Amazing. So this is what we call a conducive ecosystem. Actually, it just offers new opportunities. You just need to be ready to take the opportunity. Amazing. Ashraf, back to you. So we're interested really to know more about your fundraising journey and go-to-market journey. If you would like to dive deeper into that.
Yeah, sure. So we started just two of us, me and my Sarah, and we started with a good idea. We started with an MVP of the product. We were initially bootstrapped, just our own money, really, and then we raised a pre-seed round from different angel investors. You know the quote, when you start a company and you have a pre-seed round, usually you would go for the 3 Fs. That is family, friends, and fools.
Of course.
So we started with a group of angel investors who liked our idea, and they liked the concept of what we're doing, and the fact we're trying to use advanced technology to advance the financial investment management industry. So we raised a small pre-seed round, and then immediately after raising the pre-seed round, we got an innovation grant from the UK government. There is a program here in the UK called Innovate UK that funds great, innovative ideas, technologically risky ideas. So we got a decent funding from the UK, from the Innovate UK program. That was about 500K in US dollars. And then after we were done with the project with Innovate UK, we started to raise our seed round. And at this point, we got an investor from Saudi who was actually interested in what we're doing. They actually got to know us through our social channels, through our LinkedIn pages and LinkedIn profiles. They
found
had a
you.
look at, yes, they found us.
Wow.
So they got in touch. They said, we are interested in what you're doing, would like to know more. And we met them. We traveled to Saudi. We met them a couple of times, and they were very interested in what we're doing, and they decided to lead the seed round. So in total, in the seed round, we've raised 1.6 million, 1 million from the Saudi investor, and 0.6 million, so 600K from other investors. And we're actually raising another late seed round now, and very likely it will be led by another Saudi investor
Beautiful.
who are again interested in what we're doing. And because now we have customers in Saudi, and we have a growing pipeline from customers from Saudi, we decided to establish or open a branch in Saudi. It made sense because first we have customers, and it is important to be there, close, maintain the relationship, maintain the service to them, but more importantly, because we have a growing number of customers who are interested in what we're doing. So it made sense for us to be there in Saudi. And as I said, we're raising now the late seed round, and it's likely to be another Saudi investor. So it made a lot of sense to be there in Saudi.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a no-brainer. Cool. And what do you recommend for startups who are considering to raise funds in Saudi or go to market? I guess not everyone will be as lucky to have somebody contacting them through LinkedIn, even though luck favors actually prepared minds. So I'm pretty sure you were really prepared for somebody to jump and offer investment. But how would you see that for MENA startups, for European startups, for African startups?
Well, first, it will be very useful if you have customers in Saudi before you seek investment from a Saudi investment company, because this gives the investor some validation, some comfort that you can expand, you can speak the language, you can reach out to customers in Saudi, and it will give them, some assurance that their investment is worth it. We had a customer in Saudi already who signed with us before the investment came in, and that gave the investor some assurance, as I said, that our solution is working, it has validation, we can expand to Saudi. So it helps a lot. So if you are a startup and you want to seek investment from Saudi, I think it will be very, very, very useful if you have customers first in Saudi. So that's the first thing. The second thing is starting in Saudi, as many of the other presenters said, would require efforts, would require money and attention. So be ready for this. Don't expect the process to be just ending everything in a couple of days and then you'll be up and running in Saudi. It takes time, it takes efforts. We applied through MISA, through the entrepreneur route. So we got the investment from the Saudi company. We got letter of recommendation from a Saudi incubator, and then we reached out to MISA. And the MISA team was super helpful. They guided us through the way. They told us what to do. They told us how to apply. What do we need in details? And they even facilitated connections with other companies, with other investors in Saudi. So they were super helpful. So if you reach out to the team, they will help you. They will guide you. What you need to do, what papers do you need to have, what steps do you need to take to establish your new branch in Saudi. This is what we did, and it took, of course, a couple of months and a bit of investment to establish our branch in Saudi, but it makes sense. And as other presenters said, of course, you need to consider the efforts, you need to consider the cost. You need to consider, the number of customers you might get in Saudi before you take the decision to actually open a branch or a subsidiary in Saudi.
Fantastic. So just reach out, be patient, be persistent, bring some money. So consider having some money aside and some just time and persistence. Back to you, Omar. You are the Super Saudi startup with intentions to expand on different verticals. You cannot unmute. Yeah, Mahmoud. Omar cannot unmute. Yeah, now you can. Fantastic. So you're expanding to other verticals. You are on your new strategy for a growth path. Is this an opportunity for international startups to consider connecting with you? How does the expansion to other verticals look like? Is it just the same product going to other sectors? And then of course would love to hear your perspective on the Saudi market and VC space for international startups. So just start wherever you'd like. Easy question.
That's a compound. It's a very easy question. So I would say, so when we think about growth and expansion, we're now thinking how to go obviously vertical verticalize, so getting into F&B retail, etc. We're also expanding horizontally, so we've gone into payments, and around 3 years ago we got the payment license from the Saudi Monetary Agency. We're also going to be expanding our financial services and going after more payment licenses, getting into lending, getting into I won't probably give up all our secrets, but probably getting into more cash flow management and etc. So therefore, we have our verticalized expansion approach, and then we have the horizontal approach. And the way we see it is we have a platform vision. So we imagine, regardless of whether or not you're a retailer or an F&B restaurateur, you probably operate within 4 walls. So we want to serve all brick and mortar businesses eventually. And we believe we've built enough into the F&B tech space to also take some of those assets now and take them horizontally. So for example, accounting and payments, it's a horizontal solution that works irrespective of the vertical. Now, how we do it, obviously we'll build into some of it. We probably might acquire a few companies in the process of it. Smaller companies, niche players, probably solving parts of that larger vision. And whilst at the same time taking our more mature restaurant tech stack more regionally into new markets. So it's at our scale, obviously growth comes from doing multiple things at the same time. So I think that's probably the summary of how we probably would go about it. And yeah, when it comes to the VC market in Saudi Arabia, it's obviously amazing. Companies like Foodix and several companies in our scale wouldn't have reached to our scale if it wasn't for the support of such a thriving ecosystem. With the conducive regulators that create, honestly, almost a perfect environment for most startups to succeed. Saudi Arabia is the most interesting and largest market within the MENA region, so it makes sense if you want to be a startup operating within MENA. You have, I think, the largest GDP, but we're almost 2.4 trillion in Saudi Arabia alone, and the closest second market would be Egypt at 1.9 trillion. So you have less of a population to build for, so it's almost a no-brainer for any startup that wants to operate within this region to pick Saudi Arabia as their launchpad market, in my opinion. You have around 1.3 million SMEs. So if you're an SME, long-tail focused product on the B2B space, sky's the limit on where you can go. So I do believe if you combine all these aspects together, the future is bright. I already see a lot more pre-seed and seed startups coming out of Saudi Arabia. Obviously, we as Foodix have a huge app marketplace now as well. So we support a lot of niche players to come into the space, help them integrate into restaurants. We've all now accumulated this large base, and we can now allow for a lot more startups to come and integrate with these players, with our restaurants, right? So, obviously, cheekily from time to time, I might pick 1 or 2 as an M&A target if they're doing very well. But besides that, I think that's more or less answers the majority of your questions.
Perfectly. And you have even added an answer to one of the questions in the audience about how can you connect with international startups. Yeah, probably acquisition is something that could be considered if you can connect with something.
To kind of support also like the pitch made by Techstars. I do rely, for example, on Foodix had the privilege of having Endeavor earlier on in the journey. So I think Endeavor operates as a hybrid accelerator / community / also VC. It gets confusing for me sometimes, but I rely on Endeavor and even keyboard members to help us reach out globally to certain startups. I'm pretty sure if you're within, for example, the Techstars community with all their investments, you could probably reach out and expand and use that community as well. So I think this is another it's not mentioned enough, basically, of how even post Series C, how you could leverage this larger community as a big bounce pad to get into new markets.
Beautiful.
Or analyze those markets before the DC.
Definitely, yeah. And then this power of the communities is always not stressed enough how important that is, and as a launchpad to new markets, to new partnerships, to finding the investors, etc. So yeah, maybe if you'd like to share one closing word, guys, Omar and Ashraf, and then with that we'll come to the closing of our session. We are almost on time, so yeah, the mic is yours. One sentence, closing thoughts, if any.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I would like to say that Saudi is a very expanding market, and it's hungry for technology. If you are a tech startup and you have a good idea, you might want to, attract customers and expanding to Saudi. There is a lot of support, and the ecosystem is great. So if you have a good tech idea, tech company, it's worth really considering expanding to Saudi.
Super cool. Thank you, Ashraf. Omar?
I think I kind of said it. For me, it's a no-brainer market, guys. KSA is the largest in MENA, for my opinion, and probably by the statistics, probably you can verify. It's an extremely conducive market. There are so many government actors and regulators to come support. I haven't seen enough markets almost have as many programs and accelerator programs. I've had the privilege of even working with one of the programs where we mentored one of the startups, and soon we might even take it further and have a more strategic partnership. You never know. If you're within these programs, you might find even a larger startup like ours willing to help you on parts of the go-to-market engine. So it's not only about the customer's aspect, but it's also about key partnerships that you might need to help with your go-to-market.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, guys. I think it's time for a group picture for those who made it until now. Please be kind and open your camera for just to get to capture this moment. And with that, we're coming closer to, in the meanwhile, if you think of any topic that you'd like us to cover in the next episodes, please drop it in the chat or reach out to us. We'll give it, cameras are opening, beautiful faces. Thank you for joining, and thank you for persisting until the very end. We'll count, Mahmoud, you give us the countdown, and then you were ready for the picture. Allow, we need to allow. We're good? Okay. How long do we need to keep the big smile? Okay. We're good? Yes. Thank you so much, everyone, for being there, for sharing your energy, for being present and sharing your thoughts, your experiences. Big thank you to all our speakers. Stay tuned for the next episode, November 6th. We'll be discussing fundraising in Saudi. Looking forward to that. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.